Hello, this is Dr. Martina, your online sex therapist and sex educator. The topic today is oral sex and the fact that there's still quite a high number of women walking around saying they don't like oral sex. And for me personally, oral sex is one of the most beautiful things a woman can sexually experience. It is pleasurable, it is exciting, it feels good, there's nothing you have to do, you just lie back and enjoy it. But I also have to be honest, it was not always like that for me. I also used to say I don't like oral sex. And let me explain to you how one can go from that statement to the statement of I just love oral sex. So watch and learn. If somebody tells you that they love playing football but they don't like scoring a touchdown, there's something off, because how is that possible? So if I have a client that comes and says, yes, I love sex, but I don't like oral sex, then of course we're going to go and look what's really behind it. We're going to look at all 4 different components of our sexuality. First, I'm going to go into the cognitive one and see if anything is there, meaning how does she feel about having oral sex? Is there some kind of a messages that she received from her peers or from the Bible or you name it, or is there a lack of knowledge about the clitoris, which also be the cognitive part. So we're going to go into that and we're going to correct that. And then we're going to go into the psychological component of our sexuality, and that is how do you feel about oral sex? How do you really experience it? What do you feel? Do you feel like you're dirty? Do you feel like you're smelly? Do you feel like you're ugly? Do you have a relationship? You have a sexual self-assurance with your vagina, or is that totally is that not a friendly relationship you have with her? And then we correct that with all of these corrections are done with talking, with exercises, and with homework. We're also going to go into the relationship part of it to see if it originated there, that you were told by a certain partner that you were ugly or smelly and he or she will never go down there. They had their own restrictions about oral sex and they passed it on to you, and then we'll correct that. And then if it goes into the the physiological component, how we actually function sexually, and then we're going to go after the way you have an orgasm. And you may wonder, well, what does that have to do with liking oral sex? Well, let me tell you why that is. Within the concept of Sexocorporel, we're looking at 5 different arousal modes. An arousal mode is a way that a person uses to awaken her arousal reflex, to turn the switch on, and takes that mode to get her or himself to the point of no return to have an orgasm. Today I'm going to talk about the archaic arousal mode, and the word why it's called archaic is because it was the first detectable arousal mode in a child's sexual development. That's why they called it archaic. And it's also because it's popular. It's between 15 and 20% use it. I use it for my masturbation sessions, and it's also popular amongst women. And I'm also picking this arousal mode because one of the limitations of this mode, you will learn that it will interfere with really enjoying oral sex. With the archaic arousal mode, the person increases her arousal with pressure. She uses pressure on the genitals, which intensely activates the deep sensory receptors. We have deep sensory receptors and superficial sensory receptors. This one activates the deep sensors with a lot of pressure, and we do that we either take a pillow between our legs, or which allows us to really increase our muscle tension, which is part of that arousal mode, or we're using the edge of the bed or the back of a chair or the corner of a table, when there's something there that we can lean against and rub against or just pressure against to really activate those deep sensory receptors. Now the intense pressure and the muscular tension that gets produced during this arousal mode, that will awaken your arousal reflex, meaning the switch is on, you know you're turned on, you know you want to go up to the point of no return, and it can get you there with that arousal mode, very quickly, like 15 seconds. Now you may say, what's the problem with that? Well, there's no problem with it when you're masturbating, but when we're trying to enjoy oral sex, the problem is first of all, due to the quickness, there is no way to really enjoy it. There's no time for pleasure or time for lust because it happens so fast. Then the second thing is, it's difficult to increase your arousal any other way than doing it the way you're used to it. In other words, if you have oral sex, the tongue cannot produce that kind of a pressure that you're used to, and therefore will have a really hard time to get you up to the point of no return, because A, the tongue is not strong enough, and B, it's not the way we use our tongues on a clitoris when we lick. We usually go with the superficial sensory receptors. Now, the other problem is that physical discomfort can also occur because due to the muscular rigidity, and to the frequent respiratory blockages that you have with that arousal mode. Now, you don't worry about that in the 15 seconds or 30 seconds when you're having an orgasm with masturbation, but with a partner sex that will be difficult, because that's where the discomfort comes in, because it's work to hold on to all of that tension. And the last thing is, suppose your body is in high muscle tension and your deep sensory receptors are trying to be activated. In that case, so this is something used, in that case, a subtle touch of a tongue, a superficial touch of a tongue, can experience as unpleasant, ticklish, too much, because you're so used to going much deeper. Now, you can see that an archaic arousal mode, if that's what you use, is really not sufficient or is not in support of oral sex. Now, if that's the only mode you know, and you really didn't know all of this, then how can you really like oral sex? But that's why I'm here. That's why I want to educate you on this. And what can you do? You can learn through exercises. Well, first of all, you will learn through, if you come and see me, we will find out what really is your arousal mode. What do you really do with your muscles, with your movement and with your breath, and then we'll see what we need to change that with exercises and breath exercise, and then also homework. And then we're going to find out to teach you and teach your body to find pleasure in letting go, not just in hanging on, because you got that, you know how good it feels to hang on to these muscles. But now you're also going to have to add to learn what good it feels to let it go, so you can actually endure superficial touch and having your superficial sensory receptors being pleasured with a tongue, and you can then enjoy oral sex. That's what you can do. And I'm pretty sure if any of this makes any sense to you and you have more questions, you contact me and we'll get you into a sex education class, a one-on-one class that is maybe 1 hour, 2, maybe 3 hours, 3 times an hour, and we can get you on the right path. So I'm looking forward to hear from you. Talk to you later.